if we don't lead by example and we are not open and transparent about them, how can we be effective leaders? I'm Sobiya Jawaid. I'm a leadership and confidence coach. I'm also a speaker, a European kickboxer, a mum and wife. My background is that I was in the teaching profession for approximately 15 years, where I had this almost revelation that I actually needed to start making choices that were right for me. It was quite a profound shift, and from that moment onwards I made more and more courageous and powerful choices that have led me to be where I am today, running my own business and aligning that with my values of family and love and connection, and I incorporate that into my coaching and my leadership coaching as well, and speaking. I come from a Pakistani background, so my parents immigrated here to the UK, and as part of my upbringing, education was really, really important. And I often say this to my clients, that as parents we don't have a manual. It would be great if we had a manual and we knew exactly what to do, but I think parenting is one of those things where you've got to do what's right for you. And I think for them, they did what was right for them. And as part of that, education was very important. And my father, he also practiced judo when he was younger. So he saw the benefits of martial art in terms of self-defense, in terms of the discipline. And so an opportunity arose where there was a club that was offering kickboxing for females, and myself and my sister, we went along to it. And now when I look back at what I do in terms of my values, and I recognise what strengths I have, I'm quite an ambitious, goal-driven person. So as I started my kickboxing, I knew I wanted to get a black belt. And as I was progressing in the martial art, I recognised that there were other people within my club who were competing nationally and were going to Europe and then World Championships. And so I set my eye upon that. And being in that environment, myself and my sister were amongst the very few Asian Muslim people within the club. But my kickboxing instructor coach was somebody who never made us feel different, never made me feel like I didn't belong. And I often say this in teams, when you have a sense of belonging, those people thrive. And I thrived in that environment. And so I set my eyes upon doing my black belt, as well as my education. So I was going through university, I qualified as a teacher, as well as continuing with my kickboxing, as well as competing nationally, and then I qualified for the European Championship and I won silver there. I had to be very resilient in order to achieve what I did in my kickboxing. And the backdrop was that I was wearing a headscarf, so I wore a headscarf throughout my kickboxing training, in my competitions as well as the backdrop was that it was around 9/11 when I started training. So as you can imagine, there were a lot of external factors. And I often go back to the core principle, which is if you know what your values are, you'll stay true to them regardless of the outside noise. What I often don't share is I actually qualified for the World Championship in Florida, but I was at a cross point in my career because I was training as a teacher, had this opportunity, university didn't give me the time off, and so I made the choice to continue with my career and qualify as a teacher, as opposed to take that step and go to the World Championship. So I kind of just stopped there. Maybe my path would have been different if I went to the World Championship, and this is where my faith comes in, is that things happen for a reason, you make choices for a reason, and you've got to just draw a line under it, and then from there onwards you continue to look forward. I have different parts to my business. I have my one-to-one bespoke coaching, which is for leaders. I have group coaching programs. I have my speaking, which I do, which is part of my story to help inspire and change mindsets. In my one-to-one coaching and my group coaching and speaking, my ultimate purpose is to serve people and leave a legacy of contribution where through my interaction, there has been an imprint that has been left in somebody's life, and they have been able to carry that forward. And I speak about a ripple effect. I help leaders to create impact in the world and to create a meaningful legacy. And that is through getting clear with their values, their purpose, their vision, and ultimately leave that legacy in their life as well. I don't like to refer to my business and what I do as a career. The reason is because it's so aligned to my heart, mind, body and soul that I actually refer to it as my purpose. My highlights are when I hear clients say to me that they've had such a transformation in their life through interacting with me, in having coaching with myself, that the trajectory that they're on, the path that they were on has completely shifted. I'm so humbled by that, but also so deeply connected to that I'm leaving something that's meaningful in somebody else's life, and that feeds into my legacy and my purpose. It's not just one highlight. I hear this time and time again, and for me it's a reminder that what I'm doing is not just a career path, it's actually creating ripples in the world that are then resounding, because each time I'm coaching somebody, they're going away and they're creating impact, and that is a ripple effect. That is always a highlight, and I'm so humbled by that. An effective leader will be very clear on their values. They will be driven by a vision, and that will inspire them. And an effective leader will be somebody who doesn't tell their team or the people around them what to do, but has inspired them by this vision that they've been bought into that. They are also inspired by it and they lead by that. And also that person being connected to their purpose. And I refer to the element of values, purpose and vision because they're not just intellectual qualities, they're actually qualities that bring all the different faculties, mind, body, heart, soul into play. It talks about contribution, it talks about what you love to do, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, the difference you're making in the world. As well as that, I think what's really important is that leaders know that they don't always have to have the answers, that they can come to a solution, an answer, alongside their team members. So this element of collaboration, cooperation is really important, because often I see this pressure that leaders have, that they've got to have everything figured out, they've got to know the answers, and there's no space for learning, development, making mistakes. And I think when leaders recognize that there is this space, they're more able to be courageous and creative. I would say the other element for a really effective leader is being okay with making mistakes and seeing them not as mistakes or failures, but that it's an opportunity for learning and development. And that shift will allow an effective leader to make more choices, to lead their department, their organization in a way that's not been done before. And that's really important, because I think there is no roadmap. There are a few key qualities, but every situation, every organization, every dynamic is different. So embracing those key pillars, I would say, would make an effective leader. What's shaped me, I would say, definitely have been the people that I have been surrounded by in my formative years. So my grandfather, my uncles, my dad and my mum. And I never saw them as leaders, but now as I coach and I've embraced this space of leadership, I see those principles and qualities in them. And at that time, as I was growing, I was never able to identify it, but I was shaped by that. The fact that they did speak up against injustice. There were certain principles that were unacceptable. There were certain situations where if something was important for them, they stood up for them. And the setting is the fact that they as in my father, my parents, my grandparents, were people who immigrated to the United Kingdom in the 60s and the 70s. So they were part of a minority, and looking at their life, they supported communities, they formed these relationships, they built businesses. That requires leadership. My mum was also the oldest sibling in her family, and to this day she's there supporting people. I see these values and these principles in those individuals who I surrounded myself with, and now when I look at what's important to me, often it's very similar to what I grew up with. And I think that has really shaped me to be who I am today. I often say this to my mum, that a lioness can never give birth to kittens. And both me and my sister are strong females. That doesn't mean to say that being a strong woman is a negative thing, but a strong woman is a strong leader. And when you have a strong leader, that is a person who's going to make change and create change. One of the key shifts that have occurred for me is this element of having things right all the time. Perfect, aiming for perfection. And when I look back at many instances in my life, because I was striving for perfection, I often gave up when I was just so close to reaching my goal. I didn't create any space in my life to pause my career or pause my education so I could pursue this, because I thought, well, actually, this is what perfection looks like. It's about being in a career, having a profession, and that's the right way to do things. So I did that. But actually, if I created this space to be okay with being a little creative, trying something that's different, it would have been different. And I think that is a real mistake. Often I see in my clients as well, that they don't create that space to explore, to make mistakes, but it's such a fundamental part of life, and letting go of perfection. For now, I have a completely different attitude to it. It doesn't exist, it's unattainable, and that realization shifted my perspective. And I'm okay with mistakes, I'm okay with doing things that haven't worked out, and I've reframed that as learning. And I think when leaders embrace that, they can show up as better leaders. Many leaders that I coach do have this element of imposter syndrome. There's such a strong association to the negativity that exists within people. They think they're not good enough, or they're failures, or they're frauds. But the reality is that there are so many strengths and skills and qualities within you, and you have so much to give and to contribute, that if you actually recognize that, you would be starting and contributing on such a positive note. If I could say one thing, look at the good within you. You genuinely are sitting on a mountain of gold. And if you recognize that, not only would you be a more effective leader, you would actually be able to make more of a contribution, more of an impact than you are. Not to put pressure on yourself to have things figured out, to create some space to try, experience, experiment, be creative. And I often feel that the environment, the society that we live in, we have to have things figured out at such an early age. If you look at teenagers, they are choosing their options at the age of 14. They're doing their GCSEs. They're having to do their A-levels and go into university. These choices are made so early on. And there is a positive to that, but also there is a flip side to that. That is the pressure to have things figured out. But actually, even if you've gone through all of the formal education and you want to change paths, that's okay. It's okay to try, experiment, and if you can, I know certain people have pressures on them financially and so on and so forth, but if you can, it's okay to try different things and to let go of that pressure to have things figured out. Because it's through trial and error and experimenting that you will truly connect to what's important to you. It's my vision. I mentioned earlier on that my vision excites me and scares me, and it also motivates me. Your vision is bigger than you. It's not about your life, it's not about your immediate family or the people you interact with. It's bigger than you, and it ties in with your purpose. So for me, my vision really does motivate me. And I know that on those days where you question what you're doing, connecting to the fact that you're here to make a contribution, if what you share, what you say impacts one person, that is part of the vision that you have for your life. And that is part of my vision. Contribution is a key element of my vision. Creating change, leaving an impact in a positive way inspires me, motivates me, excites me. It's not about me. It's a bigger part of what my role is in life, and that motivates me. So having a vision is really important